Hello and welcome to National Herald. I'm Rukmini Sen. We are still on the big news of the month, maybe the year, Pegasus project. And joining me right now is MK Venu, the founding editor of The Wire. Mr. Venu, hello and welcome. It must have been quite a busy day for you today and yesterday.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Pretty busy day. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah.
So your name has featured, your colleague Siddharth Varadarajan's name has featured in the Pegasus project. I want to first have your first reaction on that.
Yeah. So I'll briefly tell you how we got involved in this project. Some 4-5 months ago, the French organization Forbidden Stories, which is a driving force behind this entire project. They are the ones who, along with Amnesty Technology Lab, they got hold of this database of 50,000 telephone numbers and individuals lying with the Israeli company NSO, belonging to people in various countries whose phone numbers were there, and they were. This database has people who they describe as selected for targeting. So they started examining this database, and Siddharth and I were part of the database. So 4 months ago, we gave our phones. At that time, this media project hadn't fructified. We started by giving our phones to test for Pegasus, and as it happened, our phones did test positive, and then similarly they must have given like they did with us. They would have given other media organizations, other countries, the task of testing numbers that they had from the database, the centralized database which Israeli company had, which also sells Pegasus to governments around the world. So they did a similar exercise with other countries. There are 17 countries. Media organizations did that. That's how this collaboration happened. And we then got all the names pertaining to India, and we started asking people, asking them whether they would want to give their phones for testing. Many refused, many agreed, many. So that's how this project started, actually. And it really, as it progressed, it became very, very, very intense and very, very revealing, as it has turned out today. So that's how this happened.
And this was the news. I mean, since day before, I guess, in the Washington Post, the Guardian, Wire, Le Monde. I mean, this was the top news clearly.
Yeah.
But now the Indian government, has said that the entire exercise, they've come out with a statement and they've said that the entire exercise of Pegasus project was to malign India. What do you have to say to that?
Rukmani, it's a completely ridiculous argument. This only shows that the leadership at the top of this government is just not seeing the writing on the wall. Why would 17 countries and media organizations, 17 countries who are examining this database owned by an Israeli company, NSO? And why are they examining this database? They're examining this database of 50,000 names belonging to various countries to basically check for Pegasus, which is the lethal spyware which can destroy democracy, privacy of citizens around the world. So, in that sense, it is Pegasus and NSO which we are trying to which we are trying to examine their activities, and it is because we are examining their activity, since they they have agreements with various governments in the world. They only do business with governments. That's how various world governments come in, including India. So to say that, even to imagine that this exercise by 17 reputed media organizations in 17 countries, their only aim is to destabilize Modi government or to destroy democracy there here is absurd, because none of those countries are claiming this, by the way. Huh? So the same exercise is happening elsewhere also. So I won't say anything more than that. It's just ridiculous. Yeah.
The Wire has made grave allegations against the government in some ways, because the fact is that uh, Vardarajan has written an article on Rahul Gandhi, and the fact that his name and two of his friends have featured in the NSO list. It's a huge allegation. Do you think that could be one of the reasons why that the government doesn't want to even look into this seriously? It's a huge allegation. The perhaps biggest opposition leader has been was on that list.
Yeah. So Rukmini, I'll make this very clear here. This is something that even Vardarajan has been very careful to in his formulation, which is, we are saying that this list is a list of people who have been selected for targeting. Now, of this list, in India's context, it has 300 people. Not all have actually been targeted so far in terms of, in a proven sort of way, because what has been proved so far in terms of the phones having been tested for Pegasus, 37 phones were sent to Paris and to the Amnesty Technology Lab, and of which I think 10 have been tested for infection by Pegasus. So that is for sure. And among those 10, Vardarajan is also part of that. Those 10, and I am also part of those 10. Prashant Kishore is part of those 10, and a few other journalists are part of the 10 who have been who it has been proven that they are infected. The others we still maintain are part of the list. Now, in the case of Rahul Gandhi, obviously, the period during which the database shows the period during which he was listed, because there's a the actual the targeting and the entry into the database, the time period more or less is it coincides, so there's not much time difference. So in his case, it was, I think, 2018 to 2019, mid 2019, and we've not tested Rahul Gandhi's phone because he's changed his phone many times, because as per his own statement, he had some inkling that something was going on. So even as a precaution, I think he kept changing his phone. So in that sense, we've not tested him for Pegasus, but he's on the list. Definitely, he was a candidate for targeting. Yeah.
And so were his friends. So Vardarajan goes on to write.
That would be the same would be the case with many of his. I think some of his aides who work with him, and also some of his friends whom he meets socially. So there are two categories in his case. So all of them are in the list. So that's how.
Yeah, and some of these friends are not even in politics or public life. They were his social friends.
Yeah, they
right?
Many of them are social friends, and they also requested that because they are purely social. They have social interaction with Rahul Gandhi, and they are not really public persons. So they also wanted to remain anonymous. So they didn't want to sort of, they may be running small businesses. So they didn't want to sort of come into the middle of this controversy. Yeah.
Okay, so now I go to the statement that the government of India has come out with. in one of the paragraphs, and I read, they say Government of India's response to a RTI information application about the use of Pegasus has been prominently reported in media and is in itself sufficient to counter the malicious claims about the association between government and Pegasus. What do you have to say to that? That an RTI was sent, and they actually responded to the RTI.
Actually, Rukmani, the government is trying to avoid giving a direct reply to the present controversy, the present episode. It is true that in 2019, WhatsApp was hacked by Pegasus, and WhatsApp had written to Ravi Shankar Prasad, then IT minister, that some 121 cases of breach of WhatsApp were observed in that year. Some in May, some in September. And at that time, government wrote to WhatsApp. WhatsApp said they were trying to fix it, etc. But this time, the scale is much bigger, as you've seen. This time, it's not WhatsApp which has been hacked. This time, the phone itself has been hacked in such a way that everything inside the phone is now is compromised. Your messages are compromised, your SMSs, your Signal, WhatsApp, everything, Telegram, your camera is compromised, everything is compromised. And this is a huge breach, which is why there's a big controversy over iPhone. Amnesty International has put out this thing saying a statement today saying that this is a big setback for iPhone, because iPhone entire credibility, branding is built around privacy and security. So it's an existential crisis for iPhone, and therefore it's also an existential crisis for all the citizens who are using iPhone. And people these days, as you know, do a lot of things through their iPhone, businesses, trading, what have you. Their health records are in the iPhone, everything. So this is a huge breach. And the only single question that the opposition has asked since yesterday of the government is, are you using Pegasus or not? Have you bought Pegasus? The government is not replying to this question, because now I'm very, very puzzled that the government is not even conceding that they have bought Pegasus or using Pegasus, whereas Grapevine has it that 45 countries are using it, which yesterday Ravi Shankar Prasad also said as a BJP spokesperson. Then what's so great about Pegasus being used? 45 countries are using it. So why this focus on India? So if you're saying that, then at least admit that you have contracted to use this spyware, and you have a contract with the Israeli company NSO. So there is no, while Indian names are there as part of the database of NSO, and NSO in their communication, legal communication to all the media companies which are part of the collaboration, has said, yes, these are our customers, but not necessarily for the purpose of surveillance. They are customers for other purpose. There are customers from India also. So who are they dealing with in India? Obviously the government, because NSO is very clear that they only deal with vetted governments. And mind you, NSO is also monitored by the Israeli government. Israeli Defense Ministry gives an export license for NSO to export this Pegasus spyware, which by their own stated objective is only to be used for national security purposes, curbing terrorism and high crimes, for no other purpose. So obviously the opposition has asked this question as to if it is meant for high crimes and national security purpose, then why are opposition leaders, journalists, activists, judges, constitutional authorities part of this? So the government's reply is that they have nothing to do with that. So government has not used Pegasus. Government has not hacked into. If that is the case, for a moment, Rukmani, even if you concede that, then it is the government's responsibility to at least through an inquiry find out then who has done it. If it is not, if the government says they have not done it, they have not used Pegasus, they have not even admitting that they bought Pegasus, then the only other conclusion, as the Hindustan Times editorial today says, is that some other government which might have bought Pegasus because only governments can buy Pegasus. They have used it. If that is the case, then there's a case of a cyber attack by a foreign government. So that is even more serious. So whichever way you look at it, the government needs to set up an inquiry. The government needs to allay the apprehensions of citizens who fear that they have been hacked. And in some cases, at least 10 cases, including mine, it is proven that we have been hacked through a proper forensic test. So government doesn't have answers for all this. So it is just kind of it's merely it's withdrawn into a shell, and it's merely saying we have nothing to do with it. I mean, assuming you have nothing to do with it, but the fact that Pegasus this hacking seems to have happened, uh, uh, and there are 300 Indians involved. At least find out then from what is the source of this hacking. Then that is also your responsibility, right?
So what you're saying is that instead of saying something like this exercise has been done to malign India, investigate
Exactly.
who has done it, because it has clearly been done. I mean, there's enough proof now in hand to say that people, journalists and activists, their phones have been hacked. And Pegasus spyware has been used for it.
And bureaucrats, ex-CBI officers, all those lists are coming out next to businessmen. Bombay, the top executives in Bombay who fund managers in Bombay, all that is going to come out. So instead of shooting the messenger, you treat the message with seriousness. That's all I'm saying.
And to extend your point, actually, in this RTI question also, the Wire says that apparently government, even then, when the RTI was put across to them, the government had never said that they had not bought Pegasus. Yeah. They had remained non-committed, right? I mean, their position was of a very neither here nor there kind of position.
Even today,
right?
Yeah.
So then there is another point they make, which is each case of interception, monitoring, and decryption is approved by the competent authority, that is the Union Home Secretary. Yeah. These powers are also available to the competent authority in the state government as per IT Rules 2009. Now, this is mind-boggling and also worrying, because if this is the case, then what do you have to say to this point?
Yeah, in the sense, see the government has powers. Every government has powers to intercept communication, privileged communication, in the interest of national security, in the interest of curbing high crimes, which can create public disorder, etc., terrorism, etc. Nobody is denying that. You have those powers in the Indian Telegraph, under the Indian Telegraph Act, to intercept. Now you also have those powers under the IT Act, where you can online intercept, or you can sort of get information online. Now, but then you say that you can. The government can admit that they have Pegasus, but they use Pegasus only legally. The question here is Pegasus has been used illegally, right? That's how hacking has happened. But here the government is not even willing to concede that they have bought Pegasus. Tomorrow somebody will come up with some evidence of some agreement between Government of India and NSO. So apparently the Prime Minister had visited Israel 3 years ago, and after that this whole thing had this whole interaction had begun. So we need to know what is the relationship between the Israeli company NSO, which owns Pegasus, and the Indian government. So sooner or later, government will have to tell the truth. So
now I just want to broaden the story, and because a lot of people are curious, tell us a little about the forbidden stories. Who are they? How did they come about investigating this entire thing?
Forbidden Stories, very simply put, is a non-profit platform in France, non-profit body. Their sole aim is to help journalists around the world to fearlessly publish, stories which are very sensitive. Stories could be, drug mafia related. Stories could be, cracking high crimes. Stories could be against governments which are authoritarian, uh, where there is a risk to the journalist. So what they do is they support such journalists, and they support such investigations. They provide them secure communication, and they help them publish their stuff, right? So that is their sole aim. So their sole aim is to promote public interest journalism, good investigative journalism, uh, in order to provide a kind of open platform, uh, so that journalists who are living in geographies uh, where where democracy is not so robust, or where you have authoritarian regimes, they can bring their information and and uh, and use it and publish it. So that is their basic aim.
So, what are the next stories the Wire is going to do on Pegasus project? What do you know that we don't know till
So
now?
we have a series of we are first. This is largely being coordinated between, say, Washington Post, Guardian, Le Monde, all the media organizations, and so the bulk of the work, I must say, was done by Forbidden Stories and the Amnesty Technology Lab. They were the ones who accessed this huge database with 50,000 names and phone numbers of belonging to different countries, and they parceled these names to various media organizations who are their partners in various countries concerned, and then we did the job of investigating, cross-checking, etc., etc. So, so, so the so the stories came from the kind of individuals that were, that were listed in the for targeting, listed in that database, and uh, as so far as we have seen, they were activists, they were journalists, 40 journalists, activists, even Bhima Koregaon activists, and the second round was opposition leaders, in which Rahul Gandhi, Prashant Kishore, Abhishek Banerjee, and their own ministers also, right? Ashwini Vaishnav, Prahlad Patel, and then there are, so far this much has come out. Uh, Today we are releasing some more uh, around basically opposition politics. How certain regional parties were hacked during very crucial periods. Yeah, like Karnataka. Karnataka politics, when the government changed in Karnataka, when Yedurappa government came and the Kumaraswamy, the coalition government, Congress, Siddharamaiah Kumaraswamy government was brought down. There are interesting episodes of people uh, who are working in their offices who are in the list, right? Uh, so that is coming out today. Then there is a bureaucrats list which will come out tomorrow. There another list will come out uh, of businessmen uh, who are working with this government. Top businessmen who are also known to be close close to this government. They've also been, you know, their names have also appeared in this list. Then, as I said, market Mumbai. Then there are, top officials from investigative agencies like CBI, etc., Enforcement Directorate. So it's there's a lot of masala which is coming in the next 2-3 days. Yeah.
Wow, somebody doesn't trust anybody clearly.
Yeah.
But quickly, you mentioned something that Prashant Kishore's name featured around the time when the West Bengal elections were happening. Clearly,
Yeah.
Rahul Gandhi's name featured around the time when around 2019. So the elections. Now, what can be the impact of this? How can and how should this be looked at? I mean, constitutionally, how should this be looked at? Because this is worrying. I'm thinking about Richard Nixon. I'm thinking about Richard Nixon coming down because of snooping.
Yeah, there is some people have called this the Watergate moment. but I would suggest that this is a potentially a Watergate moment, because Watergate was eventually was proven with a lot of material, which could not be refuted in a court of law. Now, in this case, a lot of work needs to be done, Rukmini, to make the case foolproof. So, a lot of people whose names have figure who as potential uh, targets, they need to give their phones for testing. So we are still, a lot of people are still apprehensive about giving their phones for testing and all. There are a lot of fears as to what happens if their phone, kind of image is taken away. But we need to have like the Amnesty Lab and the Citizens Lab in Toronto University, which specializes in this. In fact, it is the Citizens Lab research which has helped WhatsApp file a case against NSO, the WhatsApp hacking case. So we need to refine these processes. So I feel that by and by this investigation will take time. A lot of these people whose phones have been potentially been targeted, they need to come forward and get their phones examined. Now, this is a bit of a difficult task. Now, an official inquiry, if tomorrow, say, Supreme Court sets up an official inquiry, then via an official inquiry, a committee can be set up which can invite experts from around the world to actually test. That is something that we need to do. But then for that, our government should have the right intent. Our democracy should be. If you want to preserve your democracy, your institutions, you need to be serious about these things, right? You need to be serious about preserving people's privacy, their rights, human rights, etc. At the moment, we are far from it. In fact, at the moment, there's a case in Bhima Koregaon where fake files have been put in people's computers, which has been confirmed by top forensic institute in the US, Arsenal. But the Indian authorities, Indian investigators, not even remotely trying to take that report seriously, Arsenal report. So if this is the attitude, then I wonder whether we are strengthening our democracy, or whether we are moving towards, as somebody said, an electoral autocracy. So we have a clear choice. So people will have to decide. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So what you're saying is that this could either strengthen democracy, or it's people's choice now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
People will have to step up.
Choice, and it's what the courts do. Judiciary is also part of. It's an institution which is supposed to strengthen democracy, right?
Yeah.
So if everybody caves in, then this government will have a free run. No, so that's the problem. Yeah.
Thank you very much, MK Venu, for joining us, and congratulations for such brilliant work. Congratulations to you, to The Wire, to Mr. Vardarajan.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. You're watching National Herald. I'm Rukmini Sen. Keep watching. Please like, subscribe if you like the show. Thank you.